Hi, welcome to Looking Through the Glass. I am Sela. We have Giselle, and today we have dpaul with us. dpaul, you have quite a history, and you're pretty versed in things, aren't we?
Ho ho ho! Here we go.
So you're a veteran, correct, from the Navy?
I am. I am. The Navy loved me so much they gave me a permanent disability.
Yeah, oh, did they? Did they?
Oh, the way
That's
you
right.
cook.
I got to exit the Navy with door prizes.
Oh, yeah. So what disabilities did you have from the Navy? Like,
Well, they tried to kill me a couple times. Didn't take. So all the
wow.
all the things that go along with you know trying to get um, trying to move into the spirit world before you're supposed to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had that going for me.
Okay.
How long were you in the Navy, out of curiosity?
So I did 6 in the Navy, and I got as I said I got hurt. They ran me over with the nuclear submarine that's on the wall there. So
Wow. You got hurt good.
if you ever saw the movie Hunt for Red October,
Mm-hmm.
that's the boat Tom Clancy wrote about. I served on
Yeah.
that boat for a number of years.
Wow,
Wow.
Yeah.
that is.
So you had some nice little goodies in that they gave you a nice little goodie bag, didn't they?
They did. They did. They said we want to make sure you have some lifelong memories. So here you go.
You will remember us.
Yep.
Well, I know that one thing you spoke about, and what we really set on was the PTSD and the things that a lot of veterans face after being serving in the military, and I think that's something that's
A day with suicide. Yes,
yes,
yes.
yes, and I think that's something that's not talked about enough
It's
with.
definitely not something that we're doing enough about.
That's true. That's true. And the VA will, at least in the past, they're with the new Secretary of VA. He's working hard to make very substantial changes. But was it back in 7, 8 years ago? They Congress tasked the VA with addressing the veteran suicide rate, and of course the VA comes back after a year-long study and says, "Oh, we've done it. We've decreased the number from 22 to 17. 17 suicides a day, and they celebrate that, right? I mean, I think celebrate's probably an unfair characterization, but when they promote a reduction from 22 to 17, and then when they got called on it, when they said, "All right, so justify your numbers," turns out the numbers were bogus, you know. And when you compare the VA numbers to Operation Deep Dive, which is an ongoing study that I think's been out there for about 12 years and counting and growing. The reality is that more than 50 veterans a day are taking their lives. And the problem isn't getting better, it's getting worse, exponentially worse. And as
15.
the 20 plus year war concluded, longest war in history, second to Vietnam, if you will, from my
Yeah.
perspective. It used to be the Vietnam era was the highest suicide rate, and it was post age 60, was the highest demographic. Now that number is just being blown out of the water. The number of females taking their own lives is it's out of control, out of control.
That is, it's so sad. And I don't even think that number was given. I think somebody, I'm not sure who, but somebody said it was only 22. But now the number has skyrocketed to 50. Is just, it's heartbreaking, in my opinion.
So what? So let me ask you a question here. So they were saying that the numbers went from 22 to 17, correct? Knowing that they actually increased. Is that
I can't speak for VA that they know the
okay?
numbers increase, but I can say that um, their effort to manipulate the data is very clear,
Okay, thank you. Thank
especially
you.
to those of us who live the nightmare. You know,
Hmm.
I,
So what time was so when what dates did you serve? If you don't mind me asking,
say that again.
what dates did you serve from? Like what dates were you in the military? Like did
So
I? Sorry, I have a traumatic brain injury, so sometimes words don't come out very well.
it's all good. So I served through the '80s, and eventually I was retired from injuries.
Okay.
So
that's
That's right. You were saying the movie or the book in the movie Red October from Tom Clancy was written on the, my apologies, brain loop.
yeah, I actually read that book while we were deployed on one of our missions, and then as my time started to wind down, one of the quartermasters was dispatched to Hollywood. He spent 2 weeks as a technical advisor to the movie. So, and then he went on to do 20 plus in the Navy. Yep.
wow.
Wow.
That's
So it's
so
it's very, very realistic.
Yeah, it gives you some good. It gives you some good insights into the submarine corps. You know.
So can you tell us a little bit about your book, A Date with Suicide?
Yeah. So,
And what was
um,
your inspiration for it? I think is also.
so my inspiration for it is based in a story that happened to me a couple years after I was discharged. I was living up in Boston. My wife and I were, I think our fourth kid was on its way, and maybe it was third. I don't remember. But anyway, I'm trying to figure out how to be a husband, father, and all that stuff. Right? I'm trying to figure out how to deal with the new title they gave me as disabled. And back in the '80s, you didn't tell people you were disabled. It wasn't a badge that people spoke about. It was frowned upon, if you will.
Yeah.
Anyway, out of the blue, I get this call from a guy I served with. Haven't seen him in years, and he said, "Hey, I need to talk to you." Right? And I said, "All right. Well, I can't jump and run these days. I got responsibilities, but Super Bowl's next week, so why don't we get together and we'll drink until we puke and tell stories, and I'll listen to whatever you got to say, and we can watch a football game and catch up." Right? So we left it at that. A week goes by. I pick up the landline connected to a cord and a rotary dial. The old phones, right?
Yeah.
And I call the number he left, and this woman answers, and she's hostile, right? And I'm like, "Listen, lady, I don't know you from a hole in the wall. Randy called me. He told him we'd get together, and I'm calling him back. So put him on the phone." She starts cussing at me. I'm like, "What the?" So finally, I said, "Listen, lady, either put him on the phone or I'm hanging up." She goes, "You don't know, do you?" I said, "I don't know what. I don't even know you, right?" She goes, "Well, you're the guy he was talking to. After he got off the phone with you, he went out in the garage and hung himself. Don't ever effing call here again." Click. That was
Wow.
my introduction to veteran suicide. And to answer your question directly, the cornerstone of why I wrote A Date with Suicide. Now, fast forward 40 years, right? I get a call from another guy I haven't served with, and I served with and haven't seen in decades, and I mean decades. Turns out the guy was living 20 miles from me, and he was on an airplane coming back from Texas, and he said, um, I read your book on the airplane, and I got to tell you two things. One, your book stopped me from going home and killing myself, and two, I was at a funeral for another shipmate. Again, I hadn't seen in 40 years, who killed himself. So my book came out a week or so before a shipmate took his life, and then another shipmate who was reading it. It changed his life. And I worked with him for about 15 months, and got him back on course. And of course, the last thing we do is work on the spirituality part, and he's up and running, and he's doing well. And the command, just had a reunion, and I wasn't there, but they gave me a flag and a kudos for shipmate of the year for helping vets and so on. But um, you know, it's kind of the front and the back end of the story. A date with suicide, saving lives, right? Saving lives by telling your story of trauma, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why we do this, is to save as many lives, because no matter who, because
Oh no.
that again.
Oh, okay.
But that story, that right there,
That's deep.
is really deep, and but it's real, and that's what people need, is the realness of what's really going on in the world and with other people, because we all put a mask on, and that right there is, thank you for writing that, honestly, and sharing that, because I know several have veterans in the family, and I don't think any of them have ever talked about their deployments or what they spend.
Hmm. Exactly. Nobody's talking about what they went through, what they experienced, and like the Vietnam vets, due to all of the traumas and their PTSD being so off the charts. They were starting to talk about it, but it was still a stigma. It still is a stigma.
Yes, yes, and telling your story, as I like to say, and I preach this from the rafters, right?
Hmm.
It's hard to kill yourself when somebody's listening to you tell your story. Okay, so if you wanna overcome your traumas, it is critically important that you tell your story. Now, I didn't go out and tell my story to any living person. I put it in a book. Okay, that was my that was my approach. But I know vets that'll write their story, and they'll never publish it, but they just want to get it out of them.
You
Okay,
need to
Mm.
get it
but
out.
telling another vet what you've been through, you know, is kind of a safe way to do it, right? Because we get it, we understand. So, but telling your story is critical. And ironically, more family members and mental health providers have um, read my book than veterans. Again, I've had a lot of veterans read it and say, "Look, this is helpful, and it's stopped me from killing myself." Okay, but I've also had professionals reach out and post 5-star reviews that say, "I've been a psychiatric nurse for 20 years, and I could never get a veteran to tell me the why." Right? Well, your book does. It walks the reader through how a veteran gets to the point of suicide. And the reason the title is A Date with Suicide is because the last thing a veteran will do, you know, is set a date.
Hmm.
Veterans are very methodical about how they do things, all right? And planning it out is key. Again, the last shipmate, I mean, we've had 5 suicides in my Dallas crew, the boat crew, from the time I served on it. So 120 guys, and we know of 5 that have committed suicide. We think the number's probably closer to 12 because it's hard to figure out the ODs and what is intentional and what isn't, right? Um, but between the healthcare professionals, the mental health folks, and family, friends, people that know veterans, that's where a lot of people have learned a vast amount about what it is to be a veteran and get to that point.
Wow. So, how do you, on my curiosity, if you're willing to share this, is even you wrote a book, you shared yours, but how did you help yourself um get through that, like your healing process?
Yeah. So the first thing I said is I either need to finish this job or find peace. Okay. So my focus shifted to finding peace, and in that, I had to go backwards and re-engage with things like my spirituality, my Native Americanism. I had to cut loose the things that were causing me to walk down a path I didn't want to go down. I had to overcome the fear of telling my story, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mhm.
When I started down that path, I knew that the four corners of my existence needed to be revisited: your physical, your mental, your spiritual, and your emotional bodies, right? The four things that make us up, right? So you can't attack all four at the same time. At least I couldn't. So I had to go after one at a time, right? And I had to do things that there's no way I was going to do, like meditate, right? There is no way I'm going to go meditate. It's not happening. I'm not a kumbaya guy, right? Well, I am now, right? When I first gave up on the stereotypes of what I thought things like meditation was, I was sitting in my chair and I'm just riddled with anxiety, and it's just, if you've never had anxiety, it's impossible to explain it. But the best way I've been able to come up with anxiety is like having a razor blade, a tumbleweed packed with razor blades spiraling in your gut, right? And every time you move, breathe, think, that tumbleweed gets blown and those razors just kind of cut into your insides, right? And it won't heal. So I was tired of the drugs from the VA and all that crap, and I finally said, all right, let's try this. So I just put my head back and I said, all right, how does this meditation crap work? In through the nose, out through the mouth. So I just did what I thought was concentrating on my breath. And about 5 minutes in, I said, this is boring. Opened my eyes, and I just realized my anxiety was gone. 1, 2, 3. By the fourth second, I could feel it coming back. By second 5, bam, it was fully, engaged back in my gut. But the light was already flipped on.
Mm-hmm.
That 3 seconds of peace was what I was searching for. So, now I'm a personal meditating guru, right? Right? Do I do the kumbayas and that? No, I fully support it, okay? But my form of meditation is kind of nature and quiet and listening to native drums and so on, right? And I just like to be alone and quiet my mind. And once you understand how important quieting your mind is and letting white light enter, right? It's life changing. So that was a very big step for me, and those 3 seconds of peace gave me hope enough that I was willing to try virtually anything.
Wow. I love that. I honestly do. You opened yourself up, and it's so hard, honestly, because through any kind of healing processes, it's hard to open yourself up to a healing process that you see other people going through, but you're going, okay, yeah, right.
That's true. That's true. Again, I tell the kumbaya story, because as we go through life, there's things we swear we'll never do that we end up doing, right? And hopefully on the good side of the spectrum, okay? But we've also crossed lines that we never thought we would, because survival's it's an interesting animal. It just is, okay? And when we do things that we're not necessarily proud of, it stacks up on top of itself and eventually just comes to a point where it's overwhelming. So you have to learn to let go of those things and accept yourself for who you are and what you are. And again, 40 something years ago, the title of disabled veteran was cast upon me, which was not a badge of courage and honor. Now it is, right? So overcoming those things and thinking to the future was very, very helpful for me.
Wow.
You have a very powerful story. Very, very
Oh,
powerful story.
we've only scratched the surface, ladies and
Yeah,
I
I'm
know.
gentlemen. We've only
noticing.
scratched the surface.
Yeah, it's only the surface, and then it's like this goes a lot deeper. It's exciting though, because you're here willing to share it though, and the powerfulness of it is just, it's beautiful in my opinion. And so it's a trying to find the words, my words not wanting to come to me. um yeah, the words don't want to come to me.
I think the healing, seeing somebody, the beauty in seeing somebody find that peace
Yes.
gives hope. You know, it it gives that hope, that just that little seed of hope is all that's needed to help carry, as a person who has attempted suicide multiple times, suffered a traumatic brain injury that completely just my entire world caved in on me, giving the being having to give up all independency, all of that stuff. And I have a little twist to my story too, but but so as far as my twist, you talk a lot about spirituality, and you also talk about, let's kind of get on the spiritual side. Do you feel that when people, the way I feel also is when people are traumatized, it hits them in the spirit, in the soul, and that's what we've got to heal. Is that inner, the deep, deep, deep. Now, I know with my experiences and stuff, when someone is traumatized, it opens them up to a whole new world of things that can come in. In my own experience, the traumatic brain injury opened up a that having that injury opened, and along with the PTSD that I had, opened up a hole for something to try to grasp the hold of me.
So you're talking about dark entities.
Yes, I
Okay.
am.
I love how
Yeah,
he
that's
just immediately knew.
I knew he would.
yeah. Yeah, so as I try to tell people that are willing to listen, when anybody goes through a trauma, right, you get a peek behind the curtain, okay? And it depends on the trauma and you know, and your views of how much of a peek you actually get behind the curtain. People that have died and come back, listen, they got some pretty wild stories to tell. When I got hurt, uh, when I was hurt where it really tried to permanently send me back to the baby Jesus, I was floating over the boat watching them pull my body out of the ocean. Okay. And it didn't feel any different to me than living. It was just, I mean, I could feel the spirits around me. I could sense it. I could see everything that was going on. But it doesn't feel to me that much different than being alive. Now, I'm not saying that, again, I wasn't there a long time, but I kind of knew what was coming, and I knew it wasn't my time to die, and so on and so on. But the experience helped me move forward with something that I'd been struggling with, the first 20 plus years of my life, and that, seeing ghosts and spirits and hearing things and knowing stuff and so on. It's trauma all by itself if you don't have somebody to try or somebody that can coach you or help you understand what it is you're experiencing. Okay. So when I bump into people like yourself who have gone through things and gotten a peek behind the curtain, it makes it easy for me to have a conversation with them because I've been there, I've done it, I understand it.
Well, that's what really intrigued me when I was reading when I was reading your profile, and getting reading up on you a little bit more, and you were talking about possession, dark entities, and to me, I know that there's a war going on other than in this physical realm, that there's so much more. I've had dreams where I didn't know how to get back in my body. I was like, okay, I got this, and then stopped and was like, I always forget. How did I do that again? And to me, that was like, that was weird, but I know that there's more to that stuff.
Yeah, do you have a dream log?
No, I don't.
She's been told to get
I've been
one.
told so many times to do it, and I haven't. I don't know. A lot of my dreams I don't remember since hitting my head, but like certain things like that.
Well, most people won't remember their dreams. Um, Most people just don't, including me. So when I dream, I write it down, and I've had, I mean, the amount of prophecy that I have during my dreams is pretty wild, on a good and bad side. Okay, but if I don't write them down, I tend to lose 90 to 95% of what I dreamt. So having a dream log is very important, especially to people who suffer from trauma, or trying to overcome trauma, because there's a lot of messages inside the dreams. And it's not as black and white as most people see. For example, if you see water, right? Is the water flat? Is it wavy? Is it tyrannical? Right? So those are just like seeing what the water is doing. Is it a running river? Is it a raging river? Or is it just a calm pond? Right? Those tend to foreshadow what's in front of you. Okay? And just because you're staring at a tsunami doesn't mean that the world's going to end. It's just telling you that, listen, you're heading for you're heading for some troubled times. So buckle up, right?
Hmm.
That's funny. As you were talking, what was going through my mind was a dream I had a long time ago where it was very off the wall dream, but there was a whole bunch of different tornadoes. Shorten story up. There was a whole bunch of different tornadoes and different disasters everywhere I went with every family member. And not too long after that, there was some family turmoil.
Yeah.
Like soon after that, there was family turmoil. That's funny. I never even realized that before.
Well, when you have a dream log to reference back to, I mean, I've got a pretty substantial dream log, and one of the things that was reoccurring for a period of time was in the far east side of the Mediterranean Sea, where I could see all these battleships and a war coming, right? And then time goes by, and you have the Israeli war break out, right? Okay, but I've been able to do that my whole life. I mean, I see a massive explosion coming in Washington D.C. It's daylight. Harpo is what I keep seeing, and the Washington Monument is very visible. And the explosion, if you're looking at the Washington Monument, is off to the left. So I didn't know what the hell Harpo was until I Googled it and started realizing that Oprah Winfrey has a building called Harpo something or other in the heart of D.C. And my fear is that that's where that explosion is going to generate from. But, you know, then when the helicopter and the plane crashed, I kind of said, is that the one? I'm like, nah, it couldn't have been because it was dark and so on. So it didn't fit what I had seen, you know. But I have bumped into a few other guys that have seen, the same things coming.
I've actually seen a few different people talk about some kind of missile and explosions, or it's been kind of interpreted like their own personal dreams. I've seen a few people come out about that recently too. You're not the only one.
Yeah, there's some stuff coming, and it all, in my opinion, it all
I
hinges on
personally,
spiritual war. Right?
yeah, I
Oh
personally
yes.
had a dream. Not it was a little while back, but not too long ago, where we were driving. We were packed up as a family, and for some reason, my son wanted to stop at the store that was happened to be in the middle of nowhere. There was like all mountains, but the mountain came out like an explosion right through it. Like something went through it, and we had to like go off. And I was like, God was telling me to go this way. Let's go this way. We got to go this way. God's showing me the way. It was really weird.
Well, I could tell you stories for hours, but I'll give you one that kind of dovetails into what you just said. A friend of mine and I were driving down to Florida from New England, going down to watch my daughter play softball. This is what, 20 years ago or so. And, he knows me. We've known each other since we were kids. But I never really talked about any of this stuff. They knew I saw ghosts and all that, but they didn't really ask. Most people don't, because they're terrified of it. Okay. But we're tooling along in his F-350, and um, I'm in the passenger seat, and it was kind of just chilling, and I get this feeling, and I said, uh-oh. I said, hey, Dave, you're going to want to move over 2 lanes, and you're going to want to do it quick. And he just looks over at me, and I looked at him. I said, you need to move the truck now, Dave. Okay? And he got the message, flipped the blinker, and kind of jerked the truck into the next lane. And I said, you need to keep going. And as soon as he did, in front of us was a tanker truck. Because I forgot to say this to him. I said to him, I go, this guy in front of us is about to have a problem. And as he shifts over, all of a sudden the ass end of that truck, just the brakes locked up, it starts fishtailing. And we're on one of these 6, 7 lane highways that kind of somewhere between Georgia and Florida line, somewhere in there. And sure enough, that tanker truck went sideways. He punched it, right? And we were just scooting right past the ass end of that tanker truck, skidding across the highway. And we looked back, it was a mess. Now, of course, Dave looks at me. I look at him, and This is Dave. He's a construction guy and loves fishing and all that. He's as tan as the day is long, right? Well, right then he wasn't. He was as white gets, right? And all he said to me was, "How did you know?" I just looked at him and said, "It's a gift," right? Pulled my hat down and kind of went back to chilling out, right? He didn't talk for 3 or 4 hours. When he did, he still wanted to know how, but then again, he didn't want to know how. Now, fast forward a couple of years, we were in Texas on a major highway, and I'm telling you, this one wasn't. This one didn't have much lead time. I just looked at him. I said, "Move, high speed lane now," and he didn't hesitate. He flipped over, and somebody came crashing right through where he was, hitting the cars, stacked up, car after car after car after car. Okay, so once is interesting, twice with the same, with the same person. Okay, you know, I could tell you stories
Now
like
he's
that.
really wanting to know how.
Right. I could bore you ladies with stories like that for hours.
You won't bore
No, you
us.
won't bore us.
You won't bore
We
us. We love
we
it.
love those kinds of things because
We've done these things and we've experienced these kinds of things our entire lives.
yes,
Well, like ghosts, they talk to me. Spirits on the other side, like I don't view death like most people, and that's because I talk to my ancestors. They come and visit me. And they always have. I've from as far back as I can remember. I've always communicated with ghosts. I've had them protect me. I've had them tell me, "Hey, watch out for this person." I've had them tell me, "You need to tell my wife this story." I had this lady that moved in next door to me, and her husband had just passed away, and she was kind of slipping back into bad ways, of course. And her husband kept bothering me, kept bothering me, kept bothering me, telling me, "Tell her she's better than this. Tell her I said she's better than this." And finally, I was like, and I barely knew this lady. And I was like, "Okay, I need you to sit down. I know you think I'm crazy, but I just need you. He will not leave me alone until I tell you this." And he's telling me, and she goes, I said, "Your husband. I know it's hard to hear, but I just need you to sit with me for a minute. He's telling me that you're better than this. He keeps telling me that I must tell you that you're better than this." And she just started sobbing. She was like, "That's what he used to always tell me. Oh my gosh." I said, "Then he's still telling you. He still believes in you. He still believes in you."
So, do you clear yourself and break these connections?
Yes.
You need to work on that.
Okay.
I hope you're listening.
Yeah, she is.
You you
No,
need to
no, I'm
clear.
listening.
Yeah, that pain you feel right here, that's something messing with you. You need to get it off of you.
Okay.
there was a reason why you came on here with us.
There was.
There's
I
always
actually, I do. I get messed with a lot. I've always, my entire life, have been visited and messed with by the dark side. Like, I mean, it felt like there was one time I was about 15 years old and I'm laying in bed, and I literally had the breath, like it reached inside of me and grabbed my breath.
Yeah, I gotta jump in here. You're opening yourself up to some things that are going to cause you problems. They're already here. All right, they're already
Hmm.
attached to you. You need to get cleared.
Okay.
The longer we're talking, the more I can see it, and
Hmm.
I can feel the
The
reason you're
weight.
having trouble talking. Okay, is because they're trying to shut up your voice. Okay,
Hmm.
and I mean that. So when I went down the path, where I said I need to find peace. Okay, I had to do all of these things, and I had to get all the stuff that was attached to me, or the cords and all of it. I had to get it all taken care of, right? And we all need that, okay? Whether people talk to priests or medicine folks or whatever your spirituality is, as long as it's within the white light realm, right? Okay,
yeah.
Hmm.
and that's what I'm hearing. You probably want to spend a little more time bringing in white light, especially to clear whatever's below your thumb. Okay, there's something's
Right
messing.
here.
Yeah, something's stuck to you right there, and it's flat out fucking with you, and it's not happy you're having these conversations.
No, I
No,
know.
they never
That's why I
are.
have them.
What was that?
I said, that's why I have them, because I know that I can feel it. Like, I can feel, like, it's weird. I was telling them, I said, as I'm clearing trauma, as I'm dealing with trauma, I'm actually feeling things weighing me down. Like, I can feel
Yeah.
certain things that I can't put my finger on it, but it's weighing me down.
Yeah. So a lot of times, every time we meet people and talk to people and think about people, we're creating an energetic cord. Okay. So a
Hmm.
simpler way to say it. Okay, a tether. Right. If you don't break those connections on a regular basis, you're always staying attached to those things and you're picking up their crap. And when you do spiritual work, okay, those connections get opened up. So I have to work hard to make sure that I'm protected and in the conversation I'm having with you, I'm not picking up anything. And it gives me the ability to see what I want, what I'm supposed to see without the static, if you will. Okay. But once you ladies are doing a great job. But it's time for you to take the next step in healing, learning, and overcoming. And that next step, it's actually a big one. I've never met you folks before, but you got a big step coming in a good way, but it's going to do everything it can to bump you off of what you're looking to accomplish. And I try to tell folks all the time, don't don't get upset when crap doesn't go right. All right.
Yeah.
Look at it as a warning, as a message that the dark side doesn't want you to succeed. Okay, they don't want you spreading the light. They just don't. It's how the game
Hmm.
works. Okay, so when those things happen, when the computer drops dead and you know your software isn't working, listen, man, I'm an absolute believer that dark entities um, can mess with anything in your world unless it's wrapped in white light, and at times you have to have a significant amount of white light. So I would encourage you to work on breaking cords and connections and freeing yourself from all outside interference.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, because yesterday I was on somebody else's podcast and I was told my story, and there was people in there that are very, very, very dark, and I was talking about, yeah. So, and I didn't clear myself since then. I have
Yeah,
not cleared myself since then, but I do. I heed your warnings very clearly.
yeah.
I
Thank
I'm
you
a
for
big
that.
I'm a big sage guy. You know,
yeah.
some of my advisors aren't big sage fans, but I am. I sage, cedar, sweetgrass, and tobacco, the four elements that great creator gave us to neutralize and eliminate negative dark energy, right? It has its purpose. If you sprinkled it on the devil, would it work? No. But it does take care of a lot of dark energy. And, clear your house with it, sage your house as often as it takes, right? Okay. People think it's crazy, but, it's been around for time immemorial, right?
Since the beginning of mankind, we've got notes of doing saging practices and stuff like that,
Yep.
clearing and all of
Energy
that
healing,
stuff,
all of that.
energy healing, all of that stuff.
So I can see you already feel better on this conversation. Okay. Just by you and I being present for this thing, I can see the darkness is kind of pushing out of you because they can sense your determination to clear them. Okay. You feel better?
Yeah, actually, my head's cleared up. It was clearing up. And it was really funny because right before all of that, I was looking at myself, and this is where I understand. I was looking at myself and I was having negative thoughts about myself. I was looking in my face and I was having negative thoughts, and then that's where you're like, right there, you feel it, and I am, and that has led me to the scars that I have on my wrist. It has, especially when I was in the height of my head injury. hmm I know what led me to it. I am fully aware. God has helped
I love
me.
it when you get called out, though.
I do too.
So what's the reason? Why is darkness trying to do this?
They want to shut me up.
Okay. But why?
But whatever, I'm not fully aware. Whatever I carry, whatever I'm going to be able to do, whatever I'm supposed to do, I don't know fully yet.
Every time you ladies challenge darkness, evil, by being out there with your light. Okay? Right? Darkness wants to shut you up.
Oh
Okay?
yeah.
And every time you keep battling back, expect more darkness to come at you. Now
Yep.
that's right, one reason. But here's the reason that I try to tell people is the most important, at least in my world. Okay? Darkness wants your soul. Okay?
Hmm.
And people don't understand that your soul can fracture and does. Okay? Meaning pieces of it will split off and protect itself. Again, for me, floating above 30 feet above a submarine, right? My spirit and my soul separated. When people go through trauma, your spirit literally will flee your body just like you died. Okay? Why?
I just said
It's
that
to
yesterday.
protect the soul. Okay? So when those traumas come in and you're kind of shifting, your spirit is shifting out of your body, man, you've opened yourself up to darkness. And that's when you need your spirit guides the most to protect your soul. You know, I say it all the time. Today's a good day to die, whether it's my day or not. I have no idea. Dying's easy. Living is hard. And the
Hmm.
hardest part about living is staying on the good side of dark and evil, or evil and goodness, right? I didn't quite say that as eloquently as I was hoping to, but I think you get the point.
We got the point. It said how it's supposed to be said, no matter what. And um, honestly, I love it the way you explain things. And with me, I'm the one that's always pushing her. I'm always telling her, "Hey, we need to make this step because this is the step we need to do." The podcast was mainly because of me. I was like, "Let's do this," and then she finally was hopped on the bandwagon, going, "No, we need to share the stories."
She's been telling me to do this
Since I was like 11.
since she was like 13, 11, 13.
Yeah.
She's been
Is this
telling me,
is this
no,
mother
mom.
and daughter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And since I've gotten I'm pregnant right now, and so and we were just talking about taking a step back from everything because I'm further along, and I was like, I don't want to take away from what we're doing because I'm going, okay, I need to cut down on my days, but I don't want to take away from what we're doing because things like stories like yours and things that you're spreading, the things that need to be said and shared upon other people, I don't want to take away from them. I don't want to take that for myself.
Well, that's good to hear because you ladies are doing a great job, and I think congratulations on the pregnancy. But the more you do this, the more white light you will bring to bear on this earth, on the living. Okay, so I would encourage you to keep moving forward on this approach, and know that I've seen souls of um, newborn babies entering the body. I've seen it at birth, and I've seen it when I've tried to, when I've been called to help people who are pregnant. Right, just one quick story will kind of will shed some light on something that'll hopefully your listeners will find very very intriguing. Some years ago, my wife's company had a guy working for him. Well, I had a lot of people working for him, but one guy was a Navy submariner. Okay, so this guy needed to take a day off, and he didn't go to my wife. He reached out to me and said, "Hey, I don't want to piss your wife off, but I got to take a day off, and I'd like to tell you about it and ask your advice." I'm like, "All right." So he's telling me that him and his wife had an ultrasound, and when they did, the baby was not a baby. Okay, it was a collage of body parts, and the stuff that's inside a person was outside, and it looked more like roadkill than anything else. And as he's telling me about this ultrasound and watching it, what happens to me is these bubbles kind of pop up, and I can see what people are saying. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
um, right. So as he's telling me this, I'm also hearing. I need to go home and oh, there it is. I need to go home and charge up a malachite rock, and that's as far as I knew. So I went home, grabbed the malachite, meditated, and made all the connections I was supposed to make, went back and saw him, and handed this to him and said, "Here you go. Okay, what I'm asking you to do is go home, put this in your wife's hand, and put it in her hand like this. Okay, put it in, close it. Okay, no, just don't say anything. Just listen to me." And I'm telling you exactly what I said to this guy. I said, "Whatever she believes in, whatever you believe in, most importantly, whatever she believes in, ask her or tell her to ask the spirit world, whatever she believes in, baby Jesus, Buddha, nothing, okay? If you don't believe anything, just ask white light, okay? Tell them what you want to happen with this pregnancy. If you want it terminated, then tell them that, okay? If you want it something else, then tell the spirit world that, okay?" So, of course, this Navy vet's given me the courtesy of a crazy old bastard, right?
Mm-hmm.
This guy had no faith. Zero. Not an ounce. Okay? I'm not going to say he was an atheist, but I'm not going to say he had any spiritual direction. At least not on that day. Okay? Next day, he goes with his wife and does these things. Late in the day, I happened to be at my wife's office, but I was in a parking lot talking to her. And this guy pulls in with that, 20-something-year-old redneck truck, crap, pop, 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 his big old diesel spitting smoke, and he's pulling through the parking lot. You could see he was worked up, right? Slams it into park, jumps out of the truck, leaves the door open, and he's yelling as he's crossing the parking lot, closing the distance quickly. Okay, I'm looking at my wife. I look back at him. I go, "This is going to be interesting." Okay, from about 20 feet away, I can see the tears streaking down his face. And he gets to me and he's screaming, "What the f did you put in that rock? What did you put in that rock? What did you do?" Right? Again, I don't know the end game yet. Okay? So here I am saying, "Oh boy." Right? Stops crying, looks at me and says, "Whatever you did, whatever you told me to do, I did. I went home, gave it to my wife. She stayed up all night praying. And she's not a religious woman." We went to the doctor. They did a pre-abortion pregnancy termination ultrasound. Again, I hope I'm using the right word, ultrasound. Okay.
Yeah.
And the nurse says, "Oh my," and doesn't say anything else. Leaves the room, comes back with a doctor. The two of them are fishing around with this, comes back with another doctor. And then a third one. The third one does his thing, looks at the two of them and says, "Oh, your baby's perfectly healthy. Don't know what happened between yesterday and today, but here we are. What do you want to do?" They're just in tears, okay, finding out that their baby was perfectly healthy. And as he's telling me this, I can see what was going on, all right? And I can see a piece of the soul being put into that baby.
Wow.
Okay? Right. A guy quit maybe 2 weeks later, went and took another job. All right. So for me, there's two parts to that story. One is being able to make the connection, okay, and helping people help themselves. And two is the guy quit 2 weeks later for something that was more promising, but we crossed paths for a specific reason.
Mm-hmm.
And in part, that's what I see you ladies doing. You're making connections and crossing paths with people that are going to have lifelong positive effects on them. So I encourage you to continue to tell your story and do what it takes to move yourselves and your podcast forward. How'd you like that story?
I love it.
I almost want to cry.
I know. And, I mean, I've seen miracles. I've firsthand been dealt a miracle and my ability to actually quit doing drugs. And I know a lot of people go, "Well, that was just the human side." No, there was more to it. There was more to it. There's so much more to it than that. And I made a promise to God, to the white light, that I will get it out there.
Well, and
It doesn't sound like you have any interest or positive, response to even the thought of drugs.
No, none at all.
Isn't it crazy how people can be addicted, alcohol, drugs, sex, whatever it is. Pray. And again, I'm completely paraphrasing. And then the next day, they have no more interest in it. Okay? And their body doesn't go through withdrawals. Not saying you did or didn't. I'm just saying
Nope.
I've watched people who have made that conscious decision and ask for help from the spirit world. And for the rest of their lives, it's like, I used to love sugar and now I can't stand it. It doesn't do anything for me. To me, that's the power of faith. That's the power of prayer.
Every time I would use, because when I would try to quit due to me using when I first hit my head, every time I would try to quit, it would put my body and everything into a flight or flight mode or a survival mode, and it would cause seizures. And we're talking the seizures, the longer I would go without, the harder the seizures would get, the longer they would last. They would last hours. Like it was dangerous type thing. And I just prayed. Every time I just prayed because the shame I held with myself for just using. I mean, I wasn't out doing anything wrong, but that had that right there whispering in my ear every time and just telling me all these horrible things about myself that aren't true. And I listened and I allowed it and I allowed it. And I just would pray and pray and pray. I started doing spiritual baths. I started doing, I learned how to make oil, anointed oil. I started doing, putting them in my baths and this and that. And then one night, I thought it was going to be a seizure that happened. It was not a seizure. It was not a seizure. My husband witnessed it, and I talked about it on another podcast because I kept being told, "You must tell this. You must tell this." And what I don't know what happened. I would say to put it in layman's terms without having a full understanding, it was a freaking uh, I was possessed. Something was happening in me, and I was calling out to myself. I would tell myself, Sela, it's okay. Just breathe. Just let it go. It's not yours. It doesn't belong to you. I don't know where this is coming from, but this is all happening. My husband's standing there watching. There's water flying up in the air all around me as I'm in this bathtub, and I'm not moving. I mean, it was literally like people, and I'm telling you this, I'm comfortable because I know you understand, I can have this, but people tell me all the time, you're just crazy. No, I'm not, because I didn't quit drugs right away. I waited until I was told, now it's time to quit. And then I said, okay. And I said, I'm not going to get it. And I kept my stuff around long enough because I was like, it would be this the longer I would go without, the worse the seizures would happen. And don't get me wrong, I was guided to different things. I was told at one point in time, you need to have it, but not do it for 3 days. I'm literally being told these things. You need to have it, but not do it for 3 days. Okay, I followed it. I was told, okay, when you get done doing that, don't go get it for 10 days. On the 10th day, you can go get it. And so I held out and did that. And then I followed doing the bathing, started doing the cutting rituals, started doing trauma work with myself and stuff like that. And that's what ended up happening. And my husband, when I came to, I looked at him, I said, what the F was that? And he was just standing there like this with a towel in front of him going, uh, and I was like, was that all the darkness that I was experiencing coming out of me? Like, was that I had the only way I can say it was that there was some type of possession or stronghold on me with the drugs. Because 2 weeks later, I was told not to do it. I stopped and I didn't have a single seizure, not one. Now I'm off. No, I have no seizure medication. I'm not taking emergency medication. I was on 11, 12 different medications at one time, and I'm not no longer on any of that. Am I still going through it? Do I still have to work on things? Yeah, of course. But like this is what I prayed for.
Power of prayer, baby.
it, it is.
Yeah.
It is one hell of a story, but I mean, it is, and I just kept being told. And I was on the way home one time, and my husband and I were going through it, and I was listening to Jelly Roll, and that's when it all came and said, "You're going to start a podcast." So I came home, looked at my daughter, and I said, "You want to start a podcast? Let's start a podcast."
It's
Well, now
about
you got
damn
to
time.
reach out to Jelly Roll and get him on your show.
That's what I've been saying. I swear I'm gonna have him on Look Into the Glass one day. I know it.
Right? How much fun would that be?
That would be amazing. That would be so cool.
I also just wanted to let you know that story that you gave us about the baby, that resonated really deep with me. I have been trying to have a baby for 10 years with my husband. We have been trying if just was like, if it happens, it happens, you know. And every time I've had 2 miscarriages, and this one I kind of was like, you know, I'm gonna let God lead me wherever I need to be led. And my husband and I were just sitting there talking, and we are just kind of like, you know what, life right now is a little hectic, and it's okay. You know, we'll spend the time, you know, traveling the world. We'll go on more cruises. We'll spend more time together. We'll do more things together. And literally 2 hours later, I went and took that pregnancy test, and it was the most positive test I've ever seen. And all I could do was cry, and and it was a prayer. I prayed. I went through my own addictions, and so and I cut my addictions out, and my prayers were answered. And what was really funny was my my date of when I cut my addictions out, my sober date, is my baby's due date. And yeah, and
Her 1 year is her due date.
yeah, my 1 year of being free from all of that, from that negativity, is my baby's due date, my miracle child's due date. And now I'm having her early, but but yes. And that, so when you were saying that story, I was really trying really hard not to cry because I recognize that power of prayer. I love the smile.
I know. I love.
I love that proudness.
Got to keep the faith, man. You got to keep the faith.
And we would love to have you back, honestly, because you have a lot to share. You have a lot of knowledge, and there's so many things that people,
Everything just popped on me. Sorry.
and there's so many things that people can take from the conversations from you, from the stories that you share, and can hold that, and it can resonate with them and help them through their hard times.
Happy to come on anytime you ladies are looking for a guest who, is not only good looking, because I am. Okay? I am.
That's right.
But also has a bit of good stuff to share. So let's close with this. My latest book, Mysteries at the Wyndham Inn. Okay, The Feral Feline, Book 1. Okay, Book 2 will be out later this year. This book is kind of touches on a lot of stuff that we talked about, but it's based on it's about a true story of something that's going on in the spirit world right now in that building. The building's real, the characters are real people, and so are the ghosts. And to caveat all that, the narrator is a ghost.
Ooh.
I like that. So where can we find these books?
Amazon, short and simple, just Mysteries of the Wyndham Inn or A Date with Suicide, or if you want to get into childhood trauma, this kind of walks readers through the first 14 years of my life. And Crazy is what I called the stepfather that kind of controlled my life for a period of time.
We'll
But
definitely have you back.
that's a podcast all by itself.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we'll definitely have you back on for that one if you don't mind.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said we would definitely like to have you back for that one if you don't mind.
Well, I got to tell you, if you ladies really want to dig in, read the book. Okay?
Yeah.
It'll put some powder in your toes. Okay,
Yeah.
read the stuff, and then let's get on and discuss it. right?
Yeah, we'll have to do that.
I know that you also um, said that you do help with people who are dealing with like dark presences or anything like that.
Yes.
What is is there a way for them to be able to reach out to you for those who need
Yes.
help?
Yeah. So the simplest way to reach out to me is go through your podcast, right? Listen to its entirety, okay? And then when you scroll down to the very end, you can see how to get in touch with me. The best way to get in touch with me is through Facebook. Everybody seems to have that. So Facebook, or you can send me an email at dpaul at blackhawkbooks.com. Okay. I'm access again. If you go to dpaul Fleming on Facebook, you'll see my email address, and my emails and all of my books are on my Amazon. It's on my Amazon page. But yeah, you know, the stuff that I've cleared out of people and places and stuff. That's a month long podcast to kind of cover all that stuff. But it's
Well,
fascinating
we're here.
stuff to get into.
Yeah, it is fascinating. It is extremely fascinating, and I don't think that there's enough people out there, or maybe there is enough, but it's just there's still people that are so against it and just so closed-minded. And we're not, hey, I'm not there to force your mind to be open. I'm not. That's not my job. But
Yeah, I've dealt with the fair share of atheists and non-believers, and it does I don't pay much attention to it, and it's fun from my side of things because I can watch the darkness, when they know somebody doesn't have any faith or belief in white light, God, great spirit, the good stuff. They just sit there as kind of like a sponge waiting for darkness to get sucked into their pores.
Yeah,
yeah,
and I would love to have you back. Just share more and have more
we'll
conversations.
have to read your book.
Yeah, I plan on going and
Well,
buying
at
it.
least we'll have to read all three of them.
Sounds great.
So, if our listeners, or if you know anybody that wants to get in contact with us to share their story, or if you want to share your story, please email us at.
She can't even do it.
No, I can't.
A 1-2 looking through THRU the 3-4 the glass at gmail.com because she had to pick the most difficult one. And you can also reach us out on Facebook as well. We have our own page, Looking Through the Glass, and we also are on TikTok. The same Looking Through the Glass as the email. The through is spelled like a drive-through. And anybody who wants to be a part of the podcast or even have short stories to share, you're more than welcome to reach out to us. Thank you all again for looking through the glass.